It's not exactly the Star Trek you grew up with. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Jane Theory. Today we're discussing Picard Season 1. Now this will be a recap and review, so in case you haven't watched it just yet, there will be spoilers. We'll begin with an overview of what happened this season. The Romulans discover a prophecy that foretells the end of all organic life at the hand of synthetics. The prophecy conveniently aligns with a legend that some among them believe may reflect actual history, and thus they expect this occurrence to be an example of history repeating itself. This narrative is used to explain Romulan animosity towards synthetics, and a secret plan concocted by their organization, the Tal Shiar, or more specifically, the Zhat Vash, to infiltrate the Federation and use its access and resources to find the sentient Sith they call the Destroyer. They want to use it to locate the Sith homeworld and kill them all. As it turns out, the synthetics they're searching for were created in part by Data, who gave his life saving Picard in the attack on Mars. There, rogue synthetics destroyed a rescue armada, an armada, by the way, which was trying to save the people of Romulus from an impending supernova. Well, two of them, created by Federation officer Bruce Maddox, named Soji and Dahj, were living their lives believing themselves to be human, though, as we learn later, they were capable of being activated when threatened. Episode 1 begins with Dahj being attacked. She flees to Picard, and together they discover what she is. Ultimately, the Romulans catch up to her, and she's murdered before Picard's eyes. This inspires his mission and the show's plot to acquire a ship and crew and set off to save her sister, Soji. Unfortunately, the Federation isn't what it used to be, nor is Picard's relationship with it, and this is where the show pretty much becomes not Star Trek. The world, despite being very advanced, seems oddly dystopic. Synthetics are banned outright from some irrational fear that they're all inherently dangerous, despite the fact that the Mars incident was blamed on a coding error. Romulan refugees are discriminated against, and humans resent ever trying to save them in the first place. Now, granted, they were enemies for a long time, but their world was destroyed. And former Borg are despised by everyone. There's explicit language and torture scenes and hinted incest. Moreover, once a legend, a man who has saved the galaxy more than once, the great Jean-Luc Picard has been reduced in the eyes of everyone around him to a bumbling idiot. He's constantly yelled at and disparaged by every woman he encounters, and he's viewed by the media as a hermit, bitter about the criticism he received for prioritizing the saving of Romulan lives. We learn he resigned from Starfleet after they called off the rescue mission. He believed their actions to be dishonorable and downright criminal, and he's been living in relative isolation on his vineyard ever since. As a result, Picard is forced to operate largely outside of the Federation's purview. He reaches out to Raffi, a former officer and friend who aided his rescue effort. She's been an emotional wreck after getting fired the same day he resigned. She lost her family, who resented her work, and became an alcoholic. After pulling a gun on him, she connects him with Rios, a former officer and pilot who's also an emotional wreck after losing his last captain and father figure. Dr. Jurati, a colleague of Maddox, comes along, and they make a stop by a Romulan refugee camp on Vashti to pick up Elnor, a Romulan he saved as a child and left with an order of warrior nuns. Those warriors trained him, and now he's become their best fighter, which Picard suspects he'll need on this journey. Lastly, somewhere around episode 5, they pick up 7 of 9, a former Borg who's now operating as a ranger. Meanwhile, on the Borg cube, which is somehow broken and now being explored by Romulans, Soji discovers what she is with the help of Narek, her Romulan boyfriend. We learn pretty early that he's always known what she was and has been working with his sister and other Zhat Vash to find out what Soji knows and to kill her. With the help of a Romulan ritual, they're able to determine the coordinates to the Sith homeworld, but Shoji escapes before he can finish her off with a deadly gas. Picard, now on the cube, catches up to her just in time and they're able to escape, not realizing that Narek isn't far behind. As it turns out, there's a tracking device in Jurati, who we learn now is a Romulan agent. By the way, Maddox is rescued and murdered by Jurati somewhere in the middle of this, but it happens so quick that you'll miss it if you aren't really paying close attention. In the next world they jump to, we find out it's the home of Will Riker, former Starfleet commanding officer, who provides his old friend some sage advice. Now, off to the Sith homeworld, Picard and crew encounter flowers in space. These things bring down their ship, Narek's ship, and the Borg cube that's now under 7 of 9 and was following them to help. They attempt to warn the Sith of the impending Romulan attack. Picard pleads with them to flee just as he had the Romulans decades before, and he promises that the Federation will listen to him as he advocates on their behalf. Well, the synthetics are justifiably unconvinced by this argument. First, because Picard isn't on the best of terms with the Federation, and two, they didn't listen to him when he advocated for the Romulans the last time. Moreover, they don't believe that the humans, the Romulans, or any organic life can be reasoned with, or trusted, or will ever stop hunting them. So, Soji decides to save her people and become the destroyer long feared after all. Of course, history doesn't have to repeat itself, and prophecies don't have to come true. At the last minute of the final episode, Picard risked his life to hold off the Romulan army just long enough for Starfleet to respond to his call. And so they do, led by Riker himself in the most Star Trek moment the show has had all season. This convinces Soji, who destroys the beacon, and in the nick of time, and Picard dies an honorable death. But instead of just letting him stay dead, his neural network is transferred into a Sith body, one that degrades at the same rate as a normal human one, because life needs death to be life, or whatever. And by that same logic, Data, still alive by way of his neural network, asked to be terminated. All in all, I didn't hate Picard for what it was, a grim science fiction mystery. It lacked the aesthetic dimension you'd expect from something so futuristic, and I think that largely has to do with how dark and depressing it was, especially compared to the other series. The pacing is slow, with little action, and while the clues were sometimes interesting, the journey was rife with questions that took me out of the story, such as, why make such a big deal about finding Maddox, only to kill him off for literally no reason, and almost instantly? Why gas Soji instead of blowing her up or shooting her or both? You know that she can activate. Why make a big deal of Raffi's alcoholism and the terrible relationship she has with her family if there's no resolution to either? And even this vision making the Romulans go insane and breaking the Borg cube, but having no effect on the human they randomly shared it with, makes absolutely no sense at all. I found the supporting characters rather dull as well, with the exception of Rios and 7 of 9, who seem to be the only ones with significant depth and a story arc that really showed some growth. As for Picard, it was just painful to watch. First, I felt he deserved far more respect in that universe for all that he had accomplished over his lifetime. Then I didn't appreciate how everyone spoke down to him in such a degrading manner, his employees, his colleagues, even his supposed friends. And I didn't like how he talked about himself either. The line about never really caring about science fiction or just not getting it simply wasn't true. And what they wanted us to believe about him, or I guess what they wanted us to believe other people believed about him, just didn't ring authentic. And yes, I get that people change, but none of it felt real within the Star Trek universe. And frankly, even in our real world, how they spoke to Picard was abusive and cringeworthy. So, would I recommend this show? I mean, if you're in quarantine and you have nothing else to do, why not? But it wouldn't be at the top of my list. And there's really not a single episode I can say that I would plan to watch again. But those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. How would you rank this show compared to the other series? Was there anything about it that you did enjoy or really, really hate? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week.